giving a more detailed account than I'll be giving. There's so much hockey history in Clinton for 100 years that we could really write books about it, and some people have, and some are for sale. I just want to mention a few. Jim Mancuso, who some of you may have heard of, wrote a few books about the Comets. We have a couple left over the table there for about $20, I believe. Also, up here we have some former Comet programs. Every game from the old arena and the new arena, 73, there was a Comet program. A lot of history in here. We have some extras here that are for sale for $2 each, so if you want to come up afterwards and find the 1957 or 63 program, feel free to do so. Also, Brad Millardi was found to run the Greater Utica magazine, which is distributed free to people around here. They did a nice job last month about hockey, and there are some of these over on that table in the corner there. So those are free if you wish to take a nice picture and text about hockey. Also, our curator Rose Raymond has put together with her son a blue booklet called Hockey Came Down the Hill. It's articles from half a dozen people about their experiences with hockey. That's available for no cost. And also, I put a plug in if you'd like to join the Clinton Historical Society. There are some release lines around here and there that you can do for only $12 for a year and be a member of this organization, so we can maintain this building and keep history, and not just history, but all other hockey history and other history alive in the village. So we're about to begin. I hope you all can see this. Can you all hear is the audio okay?
Yes.
On your seats are a goldenrod copy of a timeline of hockey in the area. I'll be mentioning some of these things, but not all of them. If I mentioned all of them, we'd be here until midnight. But please keep that. You can keep the other booklet, which Patty Louise of the Waterloo Times. Thank you, Patty, for putting that booklet together. And that's also for you. Free stuff and stuff you got to buy. You can read all week, I guess, about Clinton and the Comets. Well, what better topic is there, huh? That's why you're all here. I don't know how it's not working. Let's see here. I guess I got to turn this on. There we go. Is it working there? Yeah, how about that? Okay, I'm going to start with the college story because that's where hockey started in Clinton. Is that back door open?
Someone's coming in.
Someone's coming in.
Okay. Because we have to go to Hamlin College to start hockey in the town of Kirkland.
Go right ahead.
And we're following this weekend. I've seen Andy Burns. Andy, you still here? Andy is the one who is responsible for this whole weekend, so if something goes wrong, you can blame Andy. The snow. Andy and his committee have done a fantastic job for about 2 years to plan this weekend, so they can't control the snow, but other things they basically can control. So thank you, Andy, very much. Any event, he calls this weekend. I thank you, or we thank you. What's it?
Just thank you, Albert Pretty.
Just thank you, Albert Prettyman. Albert Prettyman came to Hamilton in 1917 after graduating from Springfield College and working at Columbia University for a while. Also, he has had contacts with the Nichols School in Buffalo, which had a hockey tradition. So he started hockey on the Hill. Most boys at that time had not played hockey in high schools, but not too many schools had hockey in the 1918 period. But they flooded a tennis courts by the Country Building and started playing outdoor hockey. The first loss was to the Nichols School in almost 100 years ago today, on the 9th of February 1918, and lost 4-1. Luckily at this time in history, Russell Sage had made his millions as a railroad magnate, whatever, and his widow was giving away money. And Hamilton luckily got some money to build Sage Rink. So the name Russell Sage is on Sage Rink. So now we have in the town of Kirkland an indoor arena with natural ice, but it was an indoor arena, which is quite unique at that time. It's claimed to be the second oldest indoor arena on college campuses except for one in Boston area. And they built the rink and they played a game and beat Amherst the first game. Prettyman went on to coach for many more years until 1946, and he was also the coach of the Olympic team. Very good timing, Andy, to pick this weekend for the Olympics. So we have the 2018 Olympics going on, and of course this game was in Garmisch. I can't pronounce Partenkirchen, is it? Germany. And Hitler was, I guess he was the goalie or something, I'm not quite sure what it is, of the German team. Anyhow, Prettyman was here until 1946. His leaving Hamilton, I've never really read too much about. I'm not sure why he left exactly, but he was not a young man at that time. But he did leave in 1946. His son Bert was a high school student at that time in Clinton High School, which at that time was on Market Street, where there are now apartment houses, or an apartment house. And Bert Prettyman and some other local men, names of which some of you have heard probably, Fred Laurie, Bob Williams, Ed Bates, and many others, started playing hockey, and Coach Prettyman was their mentor. He brought down broken sticks and pads and things from Hamilton, and they started playing on the Oceanica Canal, on the McLaughlin's Pond up on Chestnut Street, and some other places around the village that had, obviously, natural ice in the wintertime. But at that time, the Marvin Street School did not have a hockey team in 1924-25. But in spite of that, these young men actually played some Hamilton College freshmen and the Onondagas. The Onondagas have a pond out back. They still do that, I'm not really sure. It used to be their swimming hole in the summer on the Onondagas. And they used to use that in the winter. They had a Onondagas hockey team. And so our boys played them. Well, Clinton also had a basketball team at that time, no hockey team. But in 1926, the high school did authorize a hockey team and ended the basketball team for a few years. So there was no basketball team going. The first coach was the principal, Ray Smith. And the first game was January 16th. They beat Hamilton College freshmen 4-3. Look at these other teams that they played back at that time. Albany Boys Academies, Fairview Central, St. John's Military. Anybody know what St. John's is? This is a trivia question. It became the manliest military academy at one time, and after that. They played St. John's, Utica Free Academy, the Onondagas again. Their first year, they had a 5-2 record. Not too bad, huh? Okay. Second year, and I should mention that after those, there's no relationship to me, by the way. They should look at all right, just enter that. Bob Williams, what they do? Testing 1, 2. The Bob Williams, as you see here, was a relationship to me. My father was also named Bob Williams. There was some confusion at times because they both were in the village activities for the years. But he was a Clinton native, and he played one of the first players for the Clinton High School team. He was a captain, as you see here. And in that second year, they played these teams. Summer Lakes, played class at St. John's, Syracuse, Nova, Hamilton, Freshman, and so forth. And they claimed the state championship. There was no other team that had testing 1, 2. So they technical difficulties, 1 minute. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 27-28, they were 8-2-1. And look at some of these teams they played. They scored 51 goals, and the opponents only scored 10 that year. Okay, let's see if I can break it again here. Okay, again, here's what was going on. I couldn't give you all the years. It'd be here all night if I gave you every year breakdown through the years. But you should know that Bob Williams was coach in the 1930s. He played. He was their star player in 1926-27-28. Then he became the coach. And then he also played for the adult team, which I'll talk about later on. So here are some of the coaches. I think all the coaches. I may have missed one, but our schools, Mike Dardell and Norm Parker. Some of you remember Norm Parker. He was a hockey coach. Yes, he was, because during World War II there was nobody else to coach, and he was not a hockey man, but he did coach. He was the coach of record, you might say, and others through the years. And this is the current coach. The high school team, again, with the tradition of going back to 1926 with skating through various places. They won various sections, and the more recent opponents. But notice they're now playing some closer teams. Back in the 1930s, there were not too many local teams except for UFA and Utica that had hockey. So they had to go to Albany, they had to go to Syracuse. Today it's a much different situation because you have Rome, you have Whitesboro, you have New Hartford, and other local teams. And in 2005 and 6, they were 6-3-1. I'm sorry, they're 6-3-1 as of a few days ago, but they did win some section crowns. Of course, Bernie Burns, which could be another whole program. I could do a whole thing on Bernie Burns, and he won over 300 games until 1983. Tim Soupy was coach for these championship teams. So that's about all I can spend time talking about high school. Again, you can spend the whole evening here talking about high school hockey. We got to talk about adult hockey now. The Clinton Comets were named in 1949, but before that there was an adult team since 1928. And some years we had teams, some years we didn't, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But we also had the Jersey Devils here for those 6 years. You also have at the high school level girls hockey, which is the 3rd year now. They started in 2015. It's a joint team. It's girls from CBA, from Casanova, from Holland Patton, University of Proctor, Rome, Whitesboro, Notre Dame, New Hartford, Notre Dame. They're called the Clinton Warriors because the Clinton team is the Clinton school sponsors them. Also, you had in the younger years, you had junior hockey. In 74 and 5, Jack Kane and Archie Burton sponsored a junior league game, a team in Utica and Clinton here. Sunday night leagues are still running at the arena, I understand, for people who are getting too old to play maybe, but still play anyhow, right? And back in the 60s and 70s, there was an amateur hockey league. There were teams sponsored by various businesses that adults who played hockey. So they sometimes play 20 games a season. Okay, back to adult hockey. It's difficult to skip around, or not to skip around here. We're talking about high school and adults, and because they're intertwined, because some of the same people are involved in high school and hockey and everything. So let's get back to the adult hockey. We've done high school pretty much. As I said, Ed Stanley is a name that you should remember. And he is instrumental in bringing adult hockey to Clinton. And in 1928, he had a phone call from somebody in Albany asking him to bring a team down to Albany to play. They did. He picked up several Clinton adults, men. They went to Albany and played. Later, they played college teams because, again, they bring too many adult teams in neighboring villages or cities in upstate New York. But some colleges now were getting hockey, so they would play hockey with college teams. And the outdoor rink was where a lot of this went on. before we had a drive to the closed rink. And again, the outdoor rink could be another program someday, but all we can say right now is that where the Clinton Tractor Supply is on the Y, where Franklin Ave and Meadow Street get together there, and back about where McDonald's is, to about where McDonald's is, the arena, or the outdoor rink, was on that site between 1926 and 1947, when the first arena was built. So we had, and they did add some length to it in these 2 years here, in 31 and 36. They also had lights. Now, if you can picture this outdoor arena, actually it's not really an arena, an outdoor rink. There were sideboards, they were about 4 feet high. There was no bleachers. People had to stand in the snow to watch the games. And there was a little netting around the edge, on the ends, but that was about it. So it was a little crude. Behind some of the people's thing, there's a red scraper. You see that red scraper there by, don't hold it up, Mo, but there's a red scraper there, which was used to scrape off the ice. It was the original Zamboni, we understand. And it was built, we understand, by Gil Goring's grandfather, who was, Gil's here, his grandfather's not here, but we understand his grandfather, Fred Goring, built it. Is that true, Gil?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyhow, that was how they scraped the ice back then. So take a look at the original Zamboni. In any event, the outdoor arena was, of course, natural ice, and some days they had to cancel games. Some days the ice was soft. Some days it was dangerous to play on it. And stage ring up on the hill was sort of the epitome of what they wanted to have down here. And they kept thinking about this, and they visited some arenas in Canada. They started a fund drive in 1940, but only got $10,000, so the war intervened and they stopped the drive. And the outdoor rink, just some statistics here, in 1940 they had 63 days of ice. In 39 they had 54 days of ice. In 43 and 44 they took in $1,460 income, pretty good, right, for an outdoor rink. They had, I'm not sure what that, I guess that should be expenses, the bills. They had 309 student tickets, 87 adult tickets. Ray Ingalls was the supervisor. So this was the outdoor rink at this point during World War II. And successful, but still not a covered rink. The ice some days was not good, but other days it was good. So there was still this desire to have an enclosed arena. Here is the old outdoor rink. See those boards? I think, were they about 3 feet, 4 feet maybe? This is the warming shed. This car is on Franklin Ave to orient you. Meadow Street would be over here out of the picture, but the rink was parallel to Meadow Street. You follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. This was a warming hut with just a wood-burning stove. I think this is Chestnut Street here. Prospect Street would be right about here. If that helps you anymore to orient yourselves to where it is. And it was the scene of day games, night games, public skating, as you see here, and figure skating. It was the winter place to be in Clinton for many years. Here's another two old poor news clippings showing the end zone. Oh, here's the hut here, and this I think is one of the end zones, but notice the nets, they had more netting behind the goal. But still pretty crude. Well, to get back to the drive for a new arena, they finally did build a new arena, which is called the first arena, to distinguish it from the one we have now, which is the second arena. And they built the new arena. The first hockey game was in January 3rd in 1949. They defeated the Syracuse Rockets 9-3. So they went from the outdoor rink. The last year, the outdoor rink was in 1948, and then they came to Kirkland Ave. Coach Bob Williams, Greg Batt was the star of the team. Hamilton College hockey coach, former Colgate star. The building was basically a Quonset hut, 240 feet by 110, with a 43-foot ceiling. It had Douglas fir framework holding aluminum sheets. There's some pictures of some of these display cases of the old arena. It's basically a big Quonset hut. And it It cost $90,000. Now that doesn't sound like much money in 1948, but you must remember that so much of the labor was volunteer. They had to buy supplies for the most part. But this was a community effort, a volunteer community effort. Local electricians donated their time, plumbers donated their time. It was, so this cost might seem a little low, but it's because so many people donated their volunteer labor. So they built the arena for $90,000, if you can imagine that. After the first year, they put in artificial ice because the ice again was not as bad as the outdoor rink, but it was pretty bad at times. They had to postpone games then. So after 1 year, they put in artificial ice. Unfortunately, the first arena burned in September of 1953 on a Friday morning about 7:30. The fire whistle went off and we all ran to the arena to watch it burn. Couldn't do much about it. But it was another community effort of volunteers. It was the next day, half the village showed up and started picking up the old twisted pipes and the old debris. And they started rebuilding the arena, the present arena, immediately afterwards. And they had ice by January '54. Can you imagine today in the world of architects and engineers and building codes, if they'd ever built an arena in 4 months? I doubt it. Is there something wrong with today's procedures? I think so. Anyhow, so here's a shot of the old arena before they put the aluminum skin on it, so to speak. And these two gals, this was, I think, Shirley McGregor, who some of you may remember the McGregor family, Glenn McGregor. This would be his older sister Shirley, and I think that was one of Chip Walker's daughters, I'm not sure. But notice those Douglas fir trusses. This would be looking towards, these houses over on Taylor Ave to get to orient you. It was right across from the same site where the current arena is. And of course, this is the iconic picture. There's a postcard over there if you want to buy it. This is an indoor, one of those big Saturday night programs, hockey in the old Clinton Arena. On the blue line, we got the Star Spangled Banner. But it burned on September 11th, '53. Here's what the back looked like. Here's the old ice machine, which I think they still use for several years in the new arena. To go back here a little bit about the Clinton Comets. The Comets were named when the arena was dedicated in February of 1949. The first arena was dedicated to Albert Prettyman, who we're celebrating this weekend. Thank you, Albert Prettyman, right? And it was dedicated to Mr. Prettyman. So that's in this month of February. At that time, the Comets were named. They had a contest, and some of you remember Willard Slaughter, an artist up on Leesboro Road. He named the Comets the Comets. His entry was the winning entry. And at that time, they were not in any league. So there was a Canadian league, New York Ontario League. So in '51, they joined that. And in '54, they joined the new, at that time, the new Eastern Hockey League. So for a couple of years, they played in 2 leagues. Then they dropped the Ontario League and just became part of the Eastern Hockey League. And this is when the glory days of the Comets were in this period here. I'm so happy to see Pat Kelly here today, one of the coaches at that time. Do you know, Pat, are these other coaches still living? Or is Jack Timmons or Benny White? Do you know anything about that?
Jack and Benny both are passed.
But Benny and Jack both have passed, and Eddie Shamlock.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anyhow, the Comets were successful in the Eastern Hockey League, and at 1973, the Mohawk Valley, the Comets were sold to a team of Utica, not to a team, but to a bunch of Utica businessmen, and they stopped playing at the arena. They went into the Utica Auditorium, and Brian Conacher, who I think his father was a famous, wasn't he a famous coach? Brian Conacher's father, I believe. Anyhow, here's the arena when the Comets were in-house there back in the '60s. Notice these cars. What's that, about a 62 Chevy or something? I don't know. Another shot of the arena. which has a 1952 Ford, I think, in front of it. Before they didn't have a very fancy front there for many years. Talking now about youth hockey. We talked about high school hockey, about the Comets, about the college hockey. But there's another element of hockey which is very important. It's the youth hockey, the feeder program for the high school. And they used to call them Pee-wees, now they call it youth hockey. And years ago, there were, in the 50s, we had several teams called the Wildcats, the Devil Dogs, the Aces, the Bears, the Rockets, and the Comets. And Red Goring was the head of the whole thing and did a great job every Saturday morning. There also were some of the early Comets who were coaches of the youth teams. Mike Nardello, Johnny Barata, Gordy Jameson, and some local people, Vince Clark, Ed Bates, and Dick Poole and Red Burns were also coaches of the youth hockey. Now Johnny Barata and Gordy Jameson were, I think, two of the first Canadians to come down here and play hockey. I could be wrong on that, there might have been another one, but they were among the first two. Mike Nardello also was one of the early players from out of this area. Originally, the Clinton Hockey Club was mostly local Central New York men who loved hockey, and they played in these various games at their own expense. They didn't get paid, they didn't get travel money. They might have got a little gas money for their car. But now they started bringing in Canadians, and many of them would work at Drop Forge or GE. They'd work part-time, then they'd travel with the team. Because at that time, the Eastern Hockey League was going down to Charlotte and to various places down south. They played the Johnstown Jets, and they played the Long Island Ducks, and they were on the road half the week. But these local industries gave jobs to these Comets, so they at least had an income in addition to what little they made playing hockey. So it was very nice of these local businesses to do that. As I say, these teams also helped sponsor some of these Pee-wee teams. And there was Pee-wees and Bantams. This has all changed now, I understand, but originally you had the Pee-wees and Bantams. Here's in 1954 and 5 are three Clinton youth hockey: Bob O'Neill, Graham Letton, Ed Germond. Maybe you remember some of those people. I know some of you do. Here I am in 1950 playing for the Devil Dog. How's that for a real tough-looking guy, huh? I was 10 years old. I think that was my last year playing hockey in the old arena. They weren't too afraid of me. I was like the third-string defenseman. But I played with some great players. Mike Caron, one of the best Clinton High School hockey players ever. Went on to Dawes, Herbie Baum, Ferguson, Harold Rambo, Chuck Marriott, Brian Burns, Ronnie O'Neill, and me. Anyhow, that was the 1950 Devil Dog team. Now today, and I got this information from Mike Orsino down at the arena, so I hope I'm accurate, because I don't know much about youth hockey today, but they have squirts, Pee-wees, midgets, mice, A mice, B mice, and again, it's all volunteer run. The volunteers have done so much for hockey in Clinton. Unfortunately, the enrollment has declined in the youth hockey, and supposedly it's because of some other factors. One is the ascendancy of soccer, which takes many young people out of the hockey area. The cost of hockey equipment is becoming quite high. Mike Orsino told me that a hockey stick would run between $30 and $40 today, a wooden hockey stick, and you can pay up to $500 or $600 for a pair of skates today. So the cost of hockey versus the cost of playing soccer or basketball or running track is quite dramatic. Unfortunately, the enrollment has declined. Also, other towns have youth hockey now. Back in the 60s, many of the Clinton teams were not just Clinton kids, but they were New Hartford kids, Whitesville kids, because they had no programs in those communities at that time. But now they all have their own programs. So the impact on youth hockey has been quite dramatic. Today, there's house teams, travel teams, the youth organization rents the arena, ice by the hour, and there's just a picture of it. Let's go back to Hamlin College as we get near the end here. Where it all began with Coach Prettyman. These coaches have been on the Hill since then. The college team as of the 5th of this month was 13-6-1. Pretty good, right? And Rob Hayward, which has been there about 7 years, I understand. I called the sports information office. They mentioned Norm Bazin, and I never heard that name. I guess he was here for 2 or 3 years. I don't know where he went. Now, how about this team back in 1926, huh? They had played outdoors. Well, no, they didn't in 26. They were playing indoors, but they had their picture taken outdoors. There's only 7 guys on the team. Now, what do you carry? 25 on a roster? 30? I don't know. Quite a difference. Hamlin College in 1925 and 6 had Cliff Van Vliet as the captain. It was a 10-man team. Just 10 men on the team. They must have been exhausted after the 3 previous. Look who they played. Middlebury, Nichols, Union, Harper, Syracuse. Won all but 2 games. That's pretty good. And of course, coach was Ira Prettyman. Hamlin College has had women's hockey since '96. And their coach is Emily McNamara. Their record was 12-6-2 as of a couple of weeks ago, or as of last week. Here's the inside of the hockey arena on the hill, stage rink. It's much brighter than it used to be. It used to be quite a dull, dingy interior, but they brightened it up quite a bit. And here's the exterior in case you've never seen it. Built 1922 with money from the Russell Sage estate. And here's the man who we are celebrating this weekend, Albert Ira Prettyman, who was in Hamilton between 1918 and 1946. Interestingly, he left in March of '46, not in June. I've never seen anything written about why he left, but I've often wondered if there was something that they didn't want us to know about. And where did he go? He went to Sampson College, south of Geneva, New York. You ever heard of Sampson Naval Base or Sampson Air Base during World War II? Well, after World War II, there were a lot of veterans coming back from the war who wanted to go to college. New York State started 2 or 3 small 2-year colleges. One was at Sampson Air Base, and it lasted only 2 or 3 years. But Prettyman went there as the athletic director for about 3 years. It only lasted about 3 years, to about 1950. There was another one right over on Burstone Road in New Hartford called Mohawk College. They were just to accommodate the influx of veterans after World War II. Anyhow, he retired from there, and he went to Florida. He passed away in Florida in 1963. Prettyman did. Some of the other giants of the situation, Ed Stanley and Bob Williams. This, by the way, is Art Scoons. This is Jack Burns. And this is back in the early 50s, but you'll see Bob Williams in a few minutes here on the films. And Ed Stanley was, of course, the leading businessman who ran the Clinton Hockey Club. He was the manager of the Comets, so they sold him in 1973. And considered to be Mr. Hockey in Clinton. He was very active in many activities, and we owe a great tribute to him and to Bob Williams and to Albert Prettyman. Those 3 men are the reasons we're here today to talk about hockey. Coach Prettyman, coach, player Bob Williams, and the manager, treasurer, what do you want to call him, Ed Stanley, who really were the 3 people who captured hockey as a great winter sport, brought it to Clinton, and kept it going for years and years and years. Here we are 100 years later. And it's not just these 3, but look at all the people who played hockey, who were parents, who watched games, who were ticket takers, who were ushers. They were mostly volunteers. There were very few paid people people at the arena besides Mr. Stanley, the secretary, and the maintenance man. Back in the 50s, it was Bob Germán. Later on, it was Kevin Grebeltaker and so forth. They were paid, but most people at the arena were not paid. They did it for the love of the game. Of course, the professional players were paid, but that was fine too. And again, in-kind services. There was the Clinton Rink Association. You should be aware that the arena was built by a private organization called the Clinton Rink Association. They sold bonds for $100 shares to people. And in late 1970s, the town of Kirkland took over the arena. So now the arena is owned by the town of Kirkland, not by the Rink Association. In any event, to wrap up here, and I apologize for going so fast, but I know there's many activities this weekend, and plus I got about a 20-minute film I want to show you, which is really great, so stay around for that. We want to just salute the 100 years of college-village cooperation. To my knowledge, not too many rough spots at all in the cooperation. When the arena burned, the Comets played up at Sage Rink, no question. They went up at Sage Rink and played. The Hill's always been very cooperative. Many of our youth teams played at Hamilton College on Saturday mornings or whenever there's free ice time. So I would call this a happy alliance, still going strong. And I think we're very happy as a community to have had this. And it's something that we all can embrace and be very proud of. And let's hope it keeps going on for 100 more years. And now I want to have Melissa turn on the audio, or the film rather. People took pictures back in the 20s and 30s, believe it or not, movie pictures, home movies. And we're not sure who took these pictures. I hope the arena's not burning. These are some pictures of the outdoor rink. And then there will be pictures of the Inkerman Rockets versus the Clinton Comets in 1950, I believe. So you'll see the first arena. You can start at any time. You'll see the first arena, the Inkerman Rockets and the Clinton Comets. Now this is outdoors, of course. I like those uniforms. Don't you like them? Huh? There's no audio, so I can't help you here too much. There's the puck. I think you'll see Robert Williams here shortly. He always skated in knickers. You'll see him in a few minutes here. There's the warming up. See the people all stand up. No, there are no bleachers to my knowledge. That would be Franklin Ave. Hey, Fitz, there's your house there, I think. I'd be looking towards Franklin Ave, sort of northeast. I'm not sure who's playing whom, and whether it's an inter-squad game or... So the uniforms look the same, don't they?
Dick,
Yes.
that is a 1934 game between the Clinton Hockey Club and the Hamilton Freshmen.
Hamilton Freshmen and Clinton Hockey Club. Thank you, Rose. Okay, it is a real game, and I don't know how you tell the team, how you tell the players about the program there. They all look alike to me. But again, the ice, sometimes the ice was terrible, sometimes the ice was pretty good. Sometimes they would have to cancel games, postpone games, because of soft ice. I can't tell you who the players are. I don't know. I don't have a program that identifies them. Notice that screen across the back there, the end zone. It's much higher today, isn't it, huh? I went to the Utica College Pioneers the other day, and now the screens are way up to the top. There's the referee in a white hat. That's pretty good. They don't seem to have too much padding on, do they, back then, huh? Now, was this when the goal judge was in the arena, or was he outside the arena? They stood right behind the net, didn't they? Yeah. The goal judge was right behind the net. There's the Zamboni there, see? Now they're taking a break between games or something. Must be between the periods. There's the Zamboni, see? Well, they got 2 or 3 of them. That's good. Just throw it over the sideboards. Throw the stuff right over the sideboard.
Where was this ring located?
It was on the, right where Caledona's Clinton Tractor is today, between Meadow Street and Franklin Ave, before you get to McDonald's. They don't show the scoreboard. All the men wore soft hats, you notice that? They all wore soft hat. Now we have some others. This is where you'll see Bob Williams skating his knickers, I believe.
This is a 19, no, that, you
No.
go to the inside. Yeah.
What's this, Rose?
This is the game you were alluding to. The other outside one was a 1937 practice session. This is the Inkerman, whatever game.
Oh, this is in the arena now. Okay, this is Inkerman Rockets. Well, there you go. 4-4. This is in the first arena. There's the old scoreboard. Now, is that Jim Schumes, or Jim Sherman, the referee? Looked like him. Notice how nobody wears a helmet. Melissa, could you turn to the individual, where's she go? Could you turn to the individual one? There's another one on here that's of the, or if, one of his individual skaters. individual skaters. Well, I guess we misplaced it in the technology here someplace.
Is there any footage of Greg Bott back when he was a prime?
I have no pictures of him, of his, I was doing research about Greg Batt last night. I never knew he was a Marine in World War II. And got the Purple Heart for action in Okinawa. I never knew that. It's amazing what Wikipedia tells you. Well, anyhow, we did have another segment, but I guess we don't have it. So I guess we can conclude and let you people enjoy the programs up here, or purchase them, or look at the other stuff, look at the displays and the display cases here, downstairs are display cases. And we'll just let this keep running so you can get up and go if you wish, or whatever you want to do. So thank you for coming.